Time for it. I don't know enough about Canadian politics. Symbol for Dialogon, an extremist FR group. Diagolon is a white supremacist group in Canada. That's PP at the Freedom Convoy. Nice. Well, he wants to be an American. What's more American than an American-funded trucker convoy? Maybe we will annex Canada after all. I don't know. Maybe they're doing fifth column style infiltration. Maybe we're already there by way of Canada's very own Texas, Alberta. We've already assumed the reins of control. I'm going back to Uzbekistan, bro. Diagolon wants to create their own country starting from Alberta and drawing a diagonal line to Texas. Wait, what? This, no prominent leaders, was the biggest issue when the cons were in power before Trudeau was elected. Trudeau had name recognition and pretty good name recognition at that. But yeah, Canadians don't have better attention span than Americans when it comes to recognizing political names. It was really bleak when I was growing up under Harper. I will die on this hill. Quebec is Florida. Okay. No, I don't think so. It was started by a podcaster. I mean, that's not surprising. Canadian alt-right organization, you can see by podcaster Jeremy Mackenzie. The U.S. Department of State's Bureau of Counterterrorism is called the far-right extremist group. It was mentioned in the news coverage in the Canada convoy protest. It's a right-wing, alt-right extremist militia network of chapters throughout Canada. A House of Commons Canada report called it a violent extremist organization. According to Canadian Anti-Hate Network, a neo-fascist militia believes that a violent revolution is coming and is an accelerationist movement that believes a revolution is inevitable and necessary to collapse the current government system. Diagolon associate Alex Vriand has promoted the neo-Nazi propaganda film Europa, The Last Battle in chat rooms. Barbara Perry, the director of Ontario Tech University's Center on Hate, Bias and Extremism, described Diagolon's ambition to create a white ethno-nationalist state as irony poisoning to normalize hateful rhetoric through humor. The group's motto is gun or rope. What gun? Like, once again, I feel like Canadians also LARP as Americans. Like, they think they live in America, dude. And it seems like they want to be a part of America. Like, what do you mean gun or rope, dog? What are you talking about? Maybe that's why they say or. Gun or rope. Mostly rope, because we can't really have guns because of the expansive gun control legislation that makes it virtually impossible for me to retain ownership over a firearm because I can't find 3 extra people that will put their name on this on this psych evaluation and be held legally liable down the line if I do use the gun. So just rope, really. Just rope. We're doing rope only. We'll do rope. Maybe someone has a gun. I don't know. If only we were a part of America, then we could also have gun. Despite this, in 2024, Paul Bear was seen as leaving an RV with a drawing of the Diagolon flag visible on the door while being filmed attending a convoy-style protest in the Nova Scotia-New Brunswick border. He would endorse the protest as good old-fashioned Canadian tax revolt. Okay. Oh, this part was really funny, where he goes dollar for dollar. Here, we'll just look at this. This is like just some of the best parts, I guess.
And by the way, put aside race, this obsession with race that wokeism has reinserted.
Like, you can have an American accent, but the moment you say wokeism, I'm like, you're cucked. You want to be European. Okay? When you say wokeism, like, what are you, French? What do you mean wokeism? Just say Americans are too woke or something, like a normal person. Wokeism. You're not French, okay? What are you saying? Oh, wokeism, don't you know? Oh, le wokisme. Le wokisme.
Well, invented even.
Invented in many ways.
Yeah, that's right. Canadians invented, wokest Canadians invented racism. After all, the indigenous genocide that took place was actually not racist in origin at all, nor were the residential schools. That was actually good and wholesome and collaborative in nature. The First Nations wanted all of that. We wanted to do that.
When I moved to Toronto, it was as race blind as any country, as any city could be.
Right.
Right. And that's flipped. And it's flipped because of that obsessive concern.
Yeah. People that say Toronto's filled to the brim with Indians, okay? They only recognize that Toronto was filled to the brim with Indians when they only started getting racist like that when wokeism came out, you know? When they say purge the Indians out of Canada, they actually are saying that because they want to be anti woke, or they want to be anti woke. Sorry.
With race, right? That was something we 100% did not need in Canada, right? It's we basically what would you say, imported and invented racism in Canada?
We imported and invented racism in Canada. Racism in Canada was invented when wokeism was invented. I love that these guys are the intellectual giants of the right, by the way. It's like, yeah. No, definitely, dude. It's not actually it's not actually all of the white supremacist actions that previous leadership has taken. It's when you point to it. That's when it becomes racism. The real problem isn't racist violence or white supremacy. The real problem is pointing a finger at it and reminding people that it still very much exists.
Right.
Well,
As a consequence of policy.
Wokeism seeks to divide people into these different groups and subgroups, and we see the results in a 250% increase in hate crimes.
Dude, this is crazy. Yeah, it's the hate crimes are being committed. The hate crimes are being committed by not like his supporters, okay? It's actually being committed by the woke. The racists would have had no idea about the racial delineation if it weren't for the wokes who reminded them that, you know, sometimes migrants come from different countries. Before then, all the racists that, you know, say stuff like keep Tim Hortons white or whatever the right-wing neo-Nazis do in Canada. So stupid. God, racists are so dumb. But anyway, yeah, we gotta keep the Tim Hortons white, don't you know? You know, they didn't know to say that beforehand. Before that, they were saying keep the Tim Hortons Tim Horton, I guess. I don't know.
But we're going to get back to the basic principle that people are judged based on their individual character and humanity rather than by their group identity. And that is actually, ironically, the most unifying thing we can do to bring our country back together. And as Lincoln put it, to bind up the nation's wounds.
Wondering what conservatives would do to social programs if they return to power under Paul LeVar. He says all those socialist policies like public health care and the like are actually bad for the poor and redistribute towards the super wealthy, so they all need to be cut.
So there's socialist policies that provide.
Yeah. I hate when the wealthy is just like taking advantage of. I hate when sorry, I accidentally said the truth. I hate when the wealthy is taking advantage of, not taken advantage of. I hate when the wealthy is taking advantage of socialized medicine. It's disgusting.
Provide goods and services to Canadians, let's say, or denizens of other countries by printing money, actually punish the poor brutally.
Oh, absolutely.
In consequence of the inflation that they generate.
Yes. I mean, all the socialist policies in practice redistribute from the working class to the super wealthy in practice. Mm-hmm. And I can prove that.
Oh, you can prove that. Yeah. It's just odd. It's odd that these guys are so anti-capitalist in their critique of what? Socialism? I'm so mad, dude. The only people that are allowed to say anti-capitalist things, the only people that are allowed to engage in left-wing populist economics are right-wingers that want to literally continue the same system of oppression and redistributive cycle that absolutely does shaft the working poor at the behest of these super wealthy to create even higher rates of profit. It is so frustrating, dude. That's why, what is the age-old adage? You know, if you ask a socialist what is wrong with capitalism, they can describe it. If you ask a capitalist what is wrong with socialism, they just describe capitalism. It's just straight up. PP followers literally believe that Trudeau is a communist. Oh my God. Oh my God. They're just as stupid as we are. I thought that like your adjacency to European style politics and the fact that you have socialized medicine and the fact that, you know, many Canadians can speak more than one language led me to falsely believe that your right wing was at least a little bit smarter than the average American hog that say stuff like Nancy Pelosi is a goddamn communist. Turns out you're just saying Nancy Pelosi is a victim of le wokism and socialiste. That's what you're saying instead. What Sign here to have a prime minister who doesn't admire basic communist dictatorships. How to do communism. Establish a new communist utopia. Rob or kill the successful. Force the rest to work for free. Run out of food. Starve to death. Say it wasn't real communism. Establish a new communist utopia. Oh. Also, this identifies correctly and implies that Karl Marx was a famous communist tyrant, like an authoritarian communist dictator. Bro couldn't even dictate a clean household. What are you saying? What was he dictating? What country was Karl Marx in charge of?
I've been tracking economic statistics in relation
Anyway,
that on, again and again and again.
theory.
In practice,
Yeah.
In practice, all the redistribution that happens in these so-called socialist countries ultimately goes from the working class to the super wealthy. That is the reality.
Yeah, unlike what's happening in Canada and America, which is that capitalism is the greatest redistributive structure. Is so funny to say when virtually everyone understands that we live under capitalism and that is precisely what is happening. What you are complaining about is currently happening right now, and you turn around and you go, you know why it's happening? Because of not enough capitalism. That's why it's happening. Yeah, the real solution to this capitalist problem is more capitalism. Great. Throughout the interview, you can see how Polivar has deceptive but effective stories and cherry-pick stats that serve his agenda. He'll fabricate a narrative that the government spending is what's driving up home prices to distract from developer and speculator profiteering.
I have a buddy whose family moved here from Italy back in 1973. His father worked paving roads, and his mother made sandwiches in a senior's home. They were able to pay off their home 10 minutes from Parliament Hill in 7 years.
Yeah, how will we get back to that? Or, sorry, what do you think is the reason why that doesn't happen? Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait to hear why he thinks that's no longer the case. It's because the buddy of mine is Italian, and now the ones that are coming in are Chinese and Indian, and they just don't have that work ethic or something, is what an incredibly racist person would say. But he'll probably say, because of woke, I guess. I don't know. What was he going to say? That the government spending has made it impossible?
Right.
Their grandchildren wouldn't be able to save up a down payment for that home in 50.
I hate the way that right-wingers correctly identify problems that they've contributed to and oversaw the facilitation of, only to turn around and say, you know what's actually the solution to these problems? More of the things that we did to cause the problems.
15 years, and they will be university educated with all the advantages of having been here 2 decades. That is the consequence of the money supply growing vastly quicker than the stuff that money buys. So what we have to do is stop growing the money supply and start growing the stuff money buys, right? Produce more energy, grow more food, build more homes. We have to unleash the free enterprise system.
Yeah, the free enterprise system is shackled. That's why the housing market is so bad. Yeah. Grow less money, grow more houses, don't you know? Yeah, what Canada needs is deregulation. It's funny to hear politicians suggest that housing should be dirt cheap because Canada has a lot of land and it's just government making it so expensive. There's a reason 90% of Canadians are living within 100 miles of the US border. Okay, I have a controversial opinion on this. I have a couple different opinions on this, okay? Number one, I think when people say a lot of parts of Canada are inhospitable, like you can't live there, and people say that about America too, where they're like, oh, it's mountainous or it's too cold. I do legitimately think that's I do legitimately think that that's cope. Okay. Having said that, however, I do understand the argument that people make in terms of preservation of the environment. Okay. I do understand that. Like, I feel like, motherfucker, you live in LA. Have you been to fucking Calgary? Okay, calm down. I know it's cold. I know it is cold up there. Hold on. I know. I think that there are valid reasons as to why you don't build. There are valid reasons as to why you don't build on certain parts of the country. But I do think that maybe I sound too much of like a pseudo intellectual. Everybody stop yelling at me about LA. Okay, shut up. I can't live there. I know. I'm not saying I could live there. Listen, maybe I'm going to sound too much like a pseudo-intellectual, but I always think of Chongqing, okay? Like, if China is capable of building a city, carving it to the side of a mountain, I think every other country is capable of doing that as well. Like whenever people say like, oh, it's too mountainous of a terrain to build, or this or that, I feel like it's just not as profitable. You know what I mean? Do you think that's the same thing as living in a tundra? Even then, we talk about how space isn't the issue. We already have declining populations in rural areas with food deserts and hospital vacuums. Why build on a mountain when we abandoned already rural areas? Yeah, that's the other issue, is that there's just not enough jobs and not enough commerce in these places. All right, I was with you, but now you sound stupid. Did you know Toronto has worse traffic than any other city outside of Europe? We generally have the worst public infrastructure in the world. I still think that like no matter where. Oh my God, climate change is the reason why Trump wants to annex Canada. I just realized. He's like, look, 90% of it is just like viable land. Just you wait until temperatures rise a little bit further, and then the majority of Canada will be the only livable space. Canada's environment is similar to the Siberian region, and the USSR built the fuck out of it. Yeah, but also at the same time, look at the way it is look at the way it is now, though. So I guess that's still an argument to government funding. If there is no profit motive and you build by need, I'm sure that there's plenty of other places that you could build around, regardless of the treacherous conditions. But then again, there's also obviously good reasons as to why they don't build on these places, whether it's like indigenous land or whether it's to preserve the environment. As a Canadian, it's not that cold. That's not really the problem. Cost of living gets insane in the north because nothing grows there, and it's almost impossible to put anything in the ground. I think my controversial opinion is that, okay, I'm going to say another controversial thing. People are going to get mad at me. Are you ready? If people can live in Phoenix, they can live in the northernmost point of Canada. Bro, it gets to 125 degrees in Arizona, okay? Not the same. Unsubbed. A head of lettuce in Yukon is like $25. Yeah, because of logistics. Anyway, let's continue. I'm done with my bad take. It's funny to hear a politician suggest that housing should be dirt cheap because Canada has a lot of land and it's just the government is making it so expensive.
We should have the most affordable housing in the world.
I think what I just said about the Phoenix versus tundra argument is, once again, me being a leftist but too early. I think that with climate change, places like Phoenix are going to be virtually impossible to live in, and a lot of the colder climate will no longer be as cold, and will be way more of a livable experience. Y'all cry about the weather when it's like -5 Celsius. Stop it. No, dude, -5 Celsius. I cry about the weather when it's when it's like 15 degrees Celsius. Are you kidding me? I live in LA. You sound like the tech bros. Why can't we just build dense cities and insert unlivable place? I know it's a stupid take. I know.
It should be dirt cheap because we have the most dirt. We just need to get the government out of the way. The same goes for our resource sector.
I think when he says that, he's talking about destroying existing forests, though.
I mean, why is it that we're still importing oil when we've got the world's third biggest supply? Why is it we can't export our natural gas overseas? But we've got so...
PP says Justin Trudeau's an authoritarian socialist that wants to control every aspect of Canadians' lives and all the industries in this country.
About to say is not a shock to anyone. We have a prime minister who is dedicated to a extremely radical ideology. It is just a rehashed socialism that has been discredited again and again and again throughout the ages. And his...
I think if you think that Justin Trudeau is in any way, shape, or form a socialist or a radical, you need to be institutionalized, okay? You need to immediately check in to the nearest institution to get some of that publicly funded mental health services. I don't even know if they have it in Canada. Do they do mental health? Can you get therapy in Canada? I feel like you probably can, right? It's difficult, but no, you can't? Okay, well, you should expand with some of those radical socialist policies. That is the radical authoritarian socialist Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau is closer to being a black man than he is to being a radical socialist. At least he's attempted to be one and never attempted to be the other, okay? He's neither, but closer to one. That's crazy. You are out of your mind. He tried. 2 out of 10. Don't recommend. People legitimately believe he's Castro's son. Okay, do they also believe that like socialism is transmitted as a genetic disease or something? Like what? Even if he was, okay, and I like that conspiracy. But how does that work? You just through genetic transmission. Socialism is hereditary. Famously. Wait, why are you guys saying they literally do? Please stop. No, I think they just don't like him, so they're saying he's bad, like Fidel Castro was bad.
Basically, authoritarian socialism has guided him throughout his entire prime ministership. He believes in a state that controls every aspect of your life, your money, your speech, your thought. He controls the economic, all of the industries of the country. Every time that has been tried, it is a complete disaster. So there's no mystery.
Yeah, Justin Trudeau implemented his 10-year prosperity plan through the command economy. The People's Committees of Canada got together and decided what the 10-year agenda looked like for the People's Republic of Canada. Okay? It was crazy. They got together and they implemented the authoritarian socialism of carbon tax. The People's Republic of Canada. And what? $10 kindergarten? It's crazy. The other PRC, the People's Republic of Canada.
Involved, and it is the same old disastrous outcome that results from the same
$10 daycare. Sorry,
same old disastrous policies.
Right.
One thing I do find interesting that Polivar has taken the lesson that many say center left parties need to learn: stop watering down their agendas, try to attract those who don't agree with them. He says it'll be shamelessly right-wing in government.
This is the mistake that conservative parties around the world have made countless times. They think, well, anybody who's got a conservative mindset is already voting for me, so I can go off and chase the ideas of my political opponents, and then everyone will love me because I'll have the conservatives due to the fact that I have the name conservative, and then I'll have all these other people because I've embraced their contrary direction. And in the short term, it works because you manage to have all of these people under, and all of the different political ideologies captured in one tent. But the problem,
he does sound like both Bill Maher and Anderson Cooper and also Jake Tapper. And that's because, and I've said this before, and I think it's my best Canadian politics take, Canadian conservatives want to be American. Okay? That's why. He just sounds American. He doesn't have that Canadian dog in him. Okay?
have to put out a call to Canadians.
Bolivar says that once conservatives take power, his supporters must remain engaged to push not just federal lawmakers, but those in other levels of government to adopt his extreme right-wing agenda. Companies will also be expected to sell a deregulatory agenda.
That they have to stay politically active. They can't assume that simply by changing, by voting in an election, that everything is going to, all the problems are going to reverse instantaneously. Like, I will need people to put pressure on the Senate to adopt my economic reforms. I will need people to put pressure on their mayors and local councillors to get out of the way and let us build homes. I will need businesses to actually do their part. I mean, our corporate Canada is so...
I just don't know who's going to build the houses, like, and also how they're going to build the houses, and what are they going to do with the existing land where you could build more houses on? Like, who's... I just don't... Like, the real problem with housing seemingly is the same whether you are in Canada or whether you're in the United States of America or whether you're in London or anywhere else. People always point to random nonsense, but it is the unfortunate reality that housing is not seen as simply shelter, something that is a necessity for survival, but instead a speculative asset, a nest egg. No one, and I mean no one, is trying to even remotely undermine this. And even the Yimbys themselves also go along with this, where they're like, no, it's just, of course it's a speculative asset. Let's just use that to build more housing. If you treat housing like a speculative asset, one that also must be protected because it's also shelter and people need that, then you arrive at this issue where housing prices have to always go up, because that's how your nest egg goes up. That's how you generate more, that's how you increase your net worth. That's how the average person increases their net worth. I don't know, Hasan. Maybe talk to and look at the Canadian chatters. Wait, what? Canada has a lot of Crown-owned land and removing restriction to protected land. Wait, what?